Late one night, I sat staring at my electricity bill, double the usual amount. My heart pounded. Something was not right. I checked every appliance, every light, but nothing explained the increase. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw motion near my driveway. Hidden in the shadows, my neighbor Karen crept up to my house and plugged her electric car into my outdoor outlet. My jaw dropped. How long had she been doing this? I rushed to check my security recording, and what I saw made my blood boil. She had been stealing my electricity for weeks. I clenched my fists. She thought she could get away with it. She thought I would not notice. She was dead wrong. If Karen wanted free electricity, I was about to give her a jolting surprise. She would never forget. I live in a quiet neighborhood where the homeowner association is quick to fine people for minor infractions. Except when it comes to Karen. She walks around like she owns the place, bending the rules to suit herself while making life difficult for everyone else. If there is a petty complaint to be made, she is the first to report it. But when it comes to her own behavior, suddenly, the rules do not apply. Recently, Karen bought an electric car instead of installing a charging station. Like a responsible homeowner, she found an easier solution: stealing my electricity. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe she plugged in once thinking it was her outlet. But when my bill shot up, I started paying closer attention. That is when I caught her late at night, sneaking over to my driveway, plugging her car into my outdoor power outlet like it was hers to use. I confronted her the next morning, expecting an admission. Instead, she smirked and denied everything, even when I showed her video proof. Then she had the audacity to threaten me, saying she would report me to the homeowner association for harassing her. That was it. She wanted to play dirty. It was time for a little payback. Karen thought she had won. She thought she could steal from me, deny it to my face, and get away with it. But she underestimated me. I was not just going to sit back and let her use my electricity like it was her personal supply. No, if she wanted to play games, I was about to take it to the next level. I knew I needed proof, not just for myself, but to make sure no one, not even the homeowner association, could ignore what she was doing. The security footage I had already captured was good, but I wanted something irrefutable, something that would leave her no room to wriggle out of her lies. So I set up an additional camera with a better view, making sure it captured every moment of her sneaky little nighttime visits. I also installed a timer on the outlet, logging every time it was used. This way, I could see exactly when and for how long Karen was stealing my electricity. But I was not the only target. One evening, I casually brought up the situation with my next-door neighbor, Mr. Peterson, an older gentleman who had lived in the neighborhood for years. I expected mild surprise, or maybe sympathy. Instead, his face hardened. "You too," he muttered. That is when he told me Karen had been doing this for months. Not just to me, but to at least 2 other neighbors. The difference? The others had not caught her in the act. Their electricity bills had gone up, and they had suspicions, but no evidence. Now I had proof, and I was about to use it. Confronting Karen had been useless. She had lied straight to my face, smirked at my proof, and even had the nerve to threaten me with the homeowner association. If she was not going to stop on her own, I needed to make her stop. That is when the idea hit me. If Karen wanted free electricity, I would give her some, but not the kind she was expecting. I got to work carefully modifying the outdoor outlet. Instead of being connected to my actual power supply, I linked it to a separate battery, with just enough charge to turn on, but not enough to actually power anything. Then I installed a hidden speaker nearby, one that would play a very special warning at the perfect moment. It was the perfect setup. Now, all I had to do was wait. The next night, I stayed up late watching my security camera from my phone. Sure enough, just past midnight, I saw her. Karen crept out of her house, glancing around like some kind of second-rate thief. She had gotten braver this time. She did not even bother being cautious. She walked straight into my driveway, plugged in her charger and leaned against her car, waiting for it to power up. Except this time it did not. A few seconds later, the hidden speaker activated, and my pre-recorded alert boomed into the silent night. Attention! You are stealing electricity. This incident has been recorded and reported to the police. Karen practically jumped out of her skin. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with fear. For a brief moment, she froze. Then in a full-blown panic, she yanked the charger out, fumbled with it in her hands, and bolted toward her house. I watched the whole thing unfold, barely holding in my laughter. She was shaken, and that was just the beginning. The next morning, I reviewed the footage. It was beautiful, clear, high-quality video of Karen sneaking over, plugging in her car, and then running away in shock when the message played. There was no way she could deny this, so I took action. I sent the footage to the homeowner association with a formal complaint. I expected them to respond quickly. After all, this was a clear case of robbery. Instead, silence. Days passed. No action. No response. Frustrated, I reached out again, but I got nothing but vague answers. That is when I realized Karen had her claws in the homeowner association. Maybe she had friends on the board. Maybe they just did not want to deal with it. But either way, they were not going to help. I did not need them. I sent the footage to my neighbors, the ones she had been stealing from, and as soon as they saw the proof, the real pressure began. Mr. Peterson was the first to act. He stormed into the next homeowner association meeting and demanded action. Another neighbor followed, then another. Soon, the entire room was talking about Karen's electricity theft. The homeowner association could not ignore it anymore. With so much public pressure, they had no option. Karen was hit with a massive penalty, not just for stealing my electricity, but for violating homeowner association rules and tampering with private property on top of that. The homeowner association issued a new policy. Karen's car was banned from charging anywhere in the neighborhood unless she installed her own charging station. It was a brutal, humiliating blow for her. And I was not done yet. Karen was outraged. Her usual smug confidence had vanished, replaced by sheer panic. She tried to play the victim, acting as if she were being unfairly punished. "This is harassment," she shrieked at the next homeowner association meeting, her face red with frustration. "I'm being bullied. It was just a misunderstanding." But the evidence was undeniable. The security footage did not lie. My video clearly showed her sneaking onto multiple properties, plugging in her car without permission, and fleeing like a thief. When caught, and when other neighbors came forward with similar complaints, the homeowner association had no choice but to act. For the first time, Karen was not the one in control. The homeowner association charged her with a massive fine, not just for stealing electricity, but for violating multiple neighborhood rules. She was forced to pay back every cent for the stolen power, and on top of that, she was banned from using any outdoor outlets in the neighborhood if she wanted to charge her car. She would have to install a station in her own garage. Karen tried to argue, tried to find loopholes, but the board did not care. They had let her get away with too much for too long. And now she had finally crossed the boundary for the first time. Since she moved in, Karen had lost, and she knew it. After that meeting, Karen was a different person. The arrogant, rule-breaking neighbor who used to strut around like she owned the place. She was gone. She stopped making snide remarks, stopped glaring at me whenever we crossed paths. In fact, she would not even make eye contact anymore. It was almost funny. She had spent so much time making everyone else feel uncomfortable, and now she was the one who could not handle the consequences. But the best part, my neighbors and I were not going to take any chances. After everything Karen had done, none of us wanted to risk another entitled neighbor pulling the same scheme. So we all installed lockable outdoor outlets, making sure that no one ever could pull that trick again. Karen must have realized her control was over, because a few months later, I saw something surprising. A for sale sign in her yard. I could not help but smile. She was running away. Maybe it was the fines. Maybe it was the disgrace. Or maybe she just could not stand living in a neighborhood where she no longer had power. Whatever the reason, she was leaving. And honestly, goodbye. Some people think they can get away with anything, that the rules do not apply to them, that they can take what they want without penalty. Karen thought she could steal from me, deny it to my face, and walk away without paying the cost. But in the end, she was the one who lost. Sometimes the best justice is not through anger, it is through smart planning. And trust me, nothing is sweeter than watching an entitled neighbor get exactly what they deserve.